Hey, this is Josh Pigford from Baremetrics, and you're listening to the Conversion Aid Podcast.
Welcome to the Conversion Aid Podcast, where we help software entrepreneurs to take their business to the next level. Each week, we interview proven industry experts who share their strategies and insights to help you create software that sells. Here's your host, Omer Khan.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Conversion Aid Podcast. I'm your host, Omer Khan, and this is the podcast for software entrepreneurs and companies who want to grow their business to the next level and create software that sells. Today's interview is with Josh Pigford. Josh is the founder of Baremetrics, a product that provides SaaS analytics for Stripe. Josh founded the company in October 2013 when he built and launched the first version of the product in just 8 days. And within 8 weeks, he was already doing about $2,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Omer.
Now, I gave the audience a brief overview of your business and product, but tell us a little bit more about you personally. Who is Josh when he's not working?
Sure. So, when I'm not working, I'm a dad and a husband. I guess from a professional standpoint, I've been making stuff for the web, at least for probably 10 years or so, across the whole gamut of just about every business type that you can imagine. Been selling stuff since I was a kid. But I don't know, that's probably me in a nutshell.
Now, we like to kick things off with a success quote, just to better understand what drives and motivates our guests. So what is one of your favorite quotes?
So I've mentioned this before, but Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, has a quote that says, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. And I think that's super important early on. I think like the more you get into a product, the less kind of, just trying to get something out the door. I think that quality becomes an issue, but I think early on when you're just trying to prove stuff, you should not pay attention to so many little details. And I think a lot of people fail in that regard.
And I think your story with Baremetrics is a perfect example of that. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Before we get into the details, can you tell our listeners, just give the listeners a better understanding of Baremetrics? Who are your target customers, and what are the top pain points that you're trying to solve?
Sure. So Baremetrics, in its current state, is basically one-click business analytics, and right now it's on Stripe as the payment platform. So the pain point there is that getting a lot of sort of in-depth business metrics can be really difficult. There's a lot of data involved, and trying to either build your own thing or use like Excel spreadsheets or try to use some other generic analytics platform is really difficult and kind of ripe for messing up. And so Baremetrics kind of takes that pain away by you not having to do anything except connect your Stripe account.
Now, how did you come up with the idea for this product?
Sure. So back in late 2013, I had two other SaaS products that were on Stripe, and I needed these metrics. So, I was trying to get things like monthly recurring revenue, lifetime value, churn, all this kind of stuff. And I was having trouble using other analytics platforms where you had to do a bunch of integration work. So I kind of started poking around, realized, hey, Stripe's got basically all the data that I need, so I'll just build it for myself. And initially I had not even planned on making it a public thing. Like it was going to be an internal tool for myself. And then, started talking to some other founders who were on Stripe, and they were all kind of freaking out, saying that they wanted the same thing. So I decided to put it out there and see what happened.
Now, you built this product in 8 days. Just tell me about what sort of the process you went through there. So, clearly you weren't thinking of shipping this as a product, right? This was just something you were doing for yourself.
Right. So I mentioned I had two other products. This was What I did not want was a third SaaS product to keep up with. I was having trouble with the two that I had at the time, and so the whole point was just to get something together really quickly that gave me the numbers that I needed, so I could kind of focus and grow those other two SaaS products. And then it quickly took off, and Baremetrics, within a few months had eclipsed the other two SaaS products I had. So, it was the obvious winner in that regard.
Do you still have those other two SaaS products around?
They still exist. I don't have any. They have new owners at this point.
So within 8 days, there's only so much you can do to build a product. And really at that point, I guess it wasn't really a product. It was just a tool for yourself. So can you tell me about some of the things that it didn't have when you actually made this available to other people?
Yeah. So Stripe's got all this data. We import all your historical data. I mean, you could have 2 or 3 years worth of data in there, but the first version only went 6 months back. You couldn't. It was super high level. So I mean, there was a single dashboard of stuff, and that was it. Like you couldn't click through and view, what the LTV was of all your plans, or what growth rates were, and I've had half the metrics it does now. I mean, really, really basic, and it wasn't. It didn't get updated that often. I mean, like the data would sometimes be a couple of days old. It was very much duct taped together.
Now, were you embarrassed?
Yeah. Well, I live in a constant, perpetual state of embarrassment with most software that I ship. Not because I think it's bad, but because it's like there's always something that it's sort of like a painter or whatever. I'm sure you could work on a painting for the rest of your life. I mean, like constantly making small tweaks and things like that, or you notice things that no one else on earth would possibly notice. So that's the kind of stuff that bothers me. But you just kind of have to get over it.
Okay, so within 8 weeks, you went to $2,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Tell me a little bit about how you actually did that. How did you find those first few customers?
So first customers came from, word of mouth via Twitter. I didn't have some like huge Twitter following or anything like that, but I just started posting, like tweeting about the process as I was building it. Kind of built up a little bit of buzz. But I should clarify, like I didn't have like a landing page. I wasn't collecting email addresses for a launch list or anything like that. I was just posting screenshots of stuff, and so I launched it, and people started telling other Stripe users started telling their friends about it. The co-founders of Stripe started tweeting about it. That kind of spread the word pretty quickly. But that was pretty much it.
So So tell me a little bit about how you were using Twitter. So you didn't have much of a following, but how were people finding out about this stuff? Were you using particular hashtags?
No, it was really, really organic. Like I wasn't searching for anybody that was mentioning Stripe and like reaching out to them, or it was very much I just posted some stuff and other people would retweet it or tell their founder buddies that they knew were on Stripe, say, hey, you should check this out, that kind of stuff. I mean, it was very kind of hands off in the sense that I wasn't extremely intentional about trying to make that an acquisition channel. Sort of amateur on my part, but at the same time, I think that it points to the fact that you can, just because you try to make something happen doesn't necessarily mean that it will. And a lot of times when you're not necessarily trying to do something, if you're solving a big enough pain, it'll kind of spread itself, I think.
And were you, with those tweets, driving people back to some kind of content or blog post? Nothing.
No, I didn't even have a blog for the first 3 months. There wasn't a landing page. There was the at the time, Baremetrics.io was the domain, and like that was all I was sending people to. That was it.
So no blog, no landing page other than the home page for your website.
Yep.
No capturing email addresses. And you were just using Twitter as a way to just
generate some buzz. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's like it goes against every kind of like launch strategy thing on the planet. I mean, it's, I think that's, but I mean, I agree. Like I absolutely could have done, there are things that I could have done to make like a little bit bigger impact, but I think it speaks to the fact that just having this sort of complex launch sequence in effect doesn't mean that you'll that's the only way to do it. And I think a lot of times people get caught up in trying to do things like capture emails and build landing pages and all this kind of stuff, and instead of just solving a problem. And so I think a lot of times like the product takes a hit because of that.
If you were doing this again, let's go back in time and maybe you're building Baremetrics again. Would you take the same approach? Would you do anything differently to generate more buzz?
I may have. I don't know. I just think like the fact that what I needed more than anything from building a business standpoint was to prove that there was a business there. And if I had spent in the 8 days that I spent developing it, like there wasn't a lot of time to get something up as far as a marketing plan. So I think it would have hurt me to like wait longer to launch just so that I could, I don't know, build up some kind of buzz or something. I don't know. There weren't competitors in the space at the time. So it was, I didn't have this sense of urgency to get something out there or anything. It was just, hey, let's throw it out there and see what happens. And I think given the time or sort of the industry at that point in time, like I don't know that I would do anything different.
Okay, so tell me about the day that you got your first customer. How did that happen?
I feel like maybe the first couple of customers were people that I knew. I mean, maybe. Yeah, a handful of the first few customers were all people that I knew. I don't remember who our absolute first customer was. We got a few signups. I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 paying customers on the first day. I think the one that stood out to me the most was we had a $249 a month plan, and honestly, like I added that plan to sort of like surely nobody would pay this much for it. And sure enough, on day one, I had a $249 a month customer who's still with us. And so to me, that's the biggest thing that stood out to me about that first day and first customers.
You said you didn't have any kind of sign up or landing page or email. So what were people signing up for at this point?
I mean, the product that was pick a plan, put in your credit card, and you get Baremetrics.
Oh, so you'd already productized it to that level by then within the.
I mean, literally like that within the 8 days that I spent on it. It was here's a working product, and as soon as I launched the site, you could sign up and give me money.
And so you said the first few people were people that you knew. Did you charge them from day one as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's like one of the things, like anybody who's got a SaaS product has 24 buddies who also have SaaS products. And, I think, and everybody for the most part pays for each other's product too. Like we've only got a couple of people who have free accounts. So basically everybody pays for stuff.
I think a lot of people may have kind of looked, if they were in a similar situation to you, maybe would have said, I haven't spent a lot of time on this. This thing is rough around the edges. Maybe I should, get this thing as a beta and let people use it for free and get some feedback and some testing.
I think that's the worst idea. I think that's like awful mistake that so many people make. I get the motivation behind it, but I think the problem is that people don't give themselves enough credit for the thing that they're building, or they start beta testing it before the thing actually solves a problem. But in reality, when you're building stuff for businesses, if you're solving any sort of measurable pain, you should be charging money for it. You may not be charging the full amount that you want to, but the type of feedback that you get from somebody who's not giving you money is arguably useless feedback. I mean, it's not really worth anything because it doesn't mean anything to that user for you to make this product better for them. They're not giving you any money. That's no skin off their back if they give you good or bad feedback, you know? But getting feedback from people who are actually parting ways with their money is absolutely, it's the most valuable thing you can get, right? And so I think that's why doing like a free beta is just like you're getting feedback from the people who you don't even know will actually give you money, and so you end up solving problems for people who may not even be paying customers.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback there. Now, so tell me the price plans you had when you launched.
They're the ones that are there now: $29, $79, $149, $249, and then past that gets into custom enterprise level stuff.
So you had a few buddies who signed up. You had somebody. So how did the person who signed up for the $249 plan?
Yep.
Was that somebody you knew?
No, I did not know them at the time. They found via somebody sharing something on Twitter.
Wow. Okay. So at this point, and so you got to $2,000 in the first 8 weeks. Where else were all these people coming from Twitter if they didn't know you?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That was it. Because I still, at this point, didn't have a blog. Like there wasn't content that anybody was sharing. The only method of anything, like of spreading the word at all about Baremetrics was Twitter.
And then so what happened? So you've got people signed up. They're paying you money. They start using your product. What was the reaction?
So their reaction was overall great, but there was a lot of feedback. And so 2 months in, I kind of had a better idea of how people were going to use it. And so at that point, I scrapped the entire code base and design and everything and started from scratch and rebuilt it over about 4 weeks. And so that I think like what's an important thing, and I wasn't necessarily trying to do this, but it worked out. Was like I launched with such a basic version that still solved the pain, but it wasn't solving the pain to its full sort of capacity or ability. So after getting feedback again from paying customers, I had a much better idea of how people wanted to use a product like Baremetrics. So then I was able to rebuild it and solve that pain even better for those people and could convert more people who maybe were on the fence before or didn't think it was worth it, that kind of thing. And I think if I had spent a lot of time making a lot of assumptions about how people would use it, I potentially would have built the wrong product and wasted, weeks or months building something that people didn't really want. So I think that's why it's so important to get it out in front of actual paying customers as soon as possible.
So you took a really interesting approach here. I mean, the first version of the product that you built, you really built it to solve your own problem, right?
Right.
I mean,
yep.
I guess the fallback situation there was, even if nobody else wants to use it, at least you're going to be solving your own problem and it's going to make life easier for you.
Exactly.
And then you went and rebuilt the product once you had paying customers and you were getting real feedback from real people who were giving you real money, right?
Yep.
Looking back at those early days, what do you think was one of the biggest mistakes that you made?
So I think early on, my entire sort of professional career has been rooted in the fact that I could handle basically any part of the process when it comes to bringing a product to life. So the design aspects, the back end, front end, marketing, support, whatever. I could handle the whole thing. And so where I kind of got caught up early on was trying to keep it that way, thinking like, I can keep handling this stuff. And in hindsight, I should have hired people a lot sooner, I think. Like built a team around the product a lot sooner. I think that was sort of a big mistake on my part.
So you built, when you rebuilt the product, you did everything yourself there as well. You didn't bring on any sort of contractors or anything like that to help you with that stuff.
Yeah, not until I think around April. So that was, let's see, it's about 6 months in. Was when I first brought on somebody, and he came on in a contract role, though he's full time now. But but even then, it was like I hired one person, and it was still kind of slow going. That was a big mistake on my part.
How did the revenue growth look like in those first 6 months?
I mean, we were growing 30% month over month as far as revenue goes. Definitely some months we were doubling revenue from the month before. And yeah, it was good. It was fast.
How did things change when you got some help on board?
So, I mean, I think like once we started hiring people, I kind of go from being the guy I can wake up one morning, think of a feature that I wanted Baremetrics to have, and build it that day, and be done with it. And then it started. Right now there's 5 of us on our team, and so now it takes a lot longer to get something done, but not in a bad way. I mean, it's not apples to apples there. It's like instead of me just throwing together some random idea and building it out and not giving it any more thought. Now it's, let's think through what this really needs to solve for customers. Let's design it well and think of all the different interactions that people will be having with it. Let's build it out in such a way that we're not going to be like having to fix bugs on it for the weeks after we launch it. I mean, I think there's a lot more that goes into building a really high quality product. And so, but that's the hard part, is like making that transition where you're just launching stuff left and right to kind of having to put a lot more thought into stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So, you bootstrapped the business for the first year, I believe, and then you took about $500,000 in funding.
Yep.
Why did you decide to do that?
So I think, I mean, I'm a huge supporter of bootstrapping, but I don't think that it's like bootstrap or take some kind of funding. I think that it's important to bootstrap to prove that there's a business there. That's where you get into a ton of trouble with investment money is taking investment money to build something that you have no idea that you'll ever be able to make money on. And that's what a lot of people do. And so, I built the first version or the early stages of the business. I proved that people would pay money for it. And that put me in a lot better position from, like sort of a negotiating standpoint for raising money. And then that money just becomes sort of fuel for the fire instead of fuel to prove if there's a business there or not.
And what did you do with most of that money?
That was, all for hiring primarily. That's what we've basically been using it for.
Okay, so you said you've got 5 people right now.
Yep.
And then what do you expect to grow to in the next year?
I don't know. We may double that. It kind of depends on growth. Like, we're trying to build a profitable business here. So keeping a solid runway in the bank is pretty important. So we're not trying to hire super quickly, but it's one of those things where there's enough work here to hire 10 more engineers easily. So I'll hire as fast as we can.
Okay, so let's talk about the business today. What's your revenue looking like at the moment?
We're kind of bumping right up against $30,000 a month. And I think that's 350 some customers, maybe somewhere around there.
Do you do you sort of ever wake up sort of wondering whether Stripe one day is going to go in and ship a whole bunch of sort of analytics features which maybe eat into your business?
No, I'm not worried about that at all. I've got a really good relationship with Stripe already, so I feel like I have enough insight into kind of some of the stuff that they want to be as a business or don't want to be, and what they don't want is to be like an analytics platform. I think that they want to make payments on the web, like be the de facto payment processor on the web. And so, having an analytics side of things, I don't know, like that might be something like way down the road, but I'm not worried about that from our business.
Okay. Now, when you launched the business, you said that there wasn't any competition.
Right.
Is there a lot of competition today? I guess there is, as you've been kind of going out and sharing your story and the success that you've had with Baremetrics.
Yeah. There's literally a new one that comes up every week. Somebody will send me a link to, or like a screenshot, and, probably 75% of them are like almost direct ripoffs of Baremetrics, design elements, the text that they use on the sales page. I mean, there's been a ton of stuff that's cropped up. There's only probably maybe one or two real competitors that have come up in the past year. But other than that, most of the people are just kind of copycats, and which don't bother me.
So when it comes to competitors, what's your sort of philosophy on that? Do you spend a lot of time looking at what your competitors are doing and how you guys are going to continue to differentiate, or are you sort of the kind of guy who just focuses on, look, I have a kind of a vision of what I want to build, and I'm just going to focus on that?
For the most part, I completely ignore competitors. The only time that really even kind of come on my radar is if we have a customer who's canceling and they're saying, "Hey, well, we're leaving to go to a competitor," which doesn't happen very often. But when it does, I want to have a better understanding about what the competitor, the problem that they were solving for this customer better than we were solving it. And so that's kind of really the only time I care. But for the most part, I think there can absolutely be multiple large players in a given industry, because I think everybody's solving like the kind of problems or the way that we're solving problems for our customers is different than our competitors would, and we're not going to be the perfect solution for everybody. I think like when you start getting into the realm of like worrying about what competitors are doing, the problem you get into is that, one, you're always behind, so you're always having to play catch up if you go that route. And in reality, you're solving problems for their customers, not your customers. And I think everybody's customer base is slightly different, and I think it's important for you to focus on your customers who are paying you and the kind of problems that they have and the way that they need those solved. So for the most part, I do think you should just ignore competitors.
Okay, that was part one of the interview with Josh Pigford of Baremetrics. You can get to the show notes for this episode by going to conversionaid.com/48, where you'll find all the links and resources that we discussed today. In episode 49, you can listen to part two of this interview, where we get tactical and talk about content marketing. It's an area where Josh still spends about 25% of his time, and we'll talk about practical things that you can learn and start applying in your own business today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can find me on Twitter @OmerKhan, or you can email me at omer@conversionaid.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, take care.
Thanks for listening to Conversion Aid, the podcast that shows you how to take your business to the next level and create software that sells. But things don't have to end here. Head over to conversionaid.com/VIP and get yourself on the free VIP list, where we share special insider content and news about upcoming episodes. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time.